Billionaire shocked. What this maid whispered in Italian will haunt you forever. In the heart of the crescent moonlit mansion, shadows lurked behind every corner, whispering secrets of wealth and darkness. The air was thick with the unsettling tension that comes before a storm. The grand hall bustled with elite guests, laughter echoing like ghosts against the marble floors. But one figure stood out: a maid, her ethereal beauty cloaked in mystery. Eyes like stormy seas seemed to glaze over them all, yet she was oblivious to the glitzy world surrounding her. Her name was Elena, and as she moved silently across the room, she appeared almost untouchable. But it was the moment she leaned in close to her employer, the billionaire Victor Black, that sent shivers down everyone's spine. The words that slipped from her lips were in Italian, soft, yet laced with a chill that froze even the bone. La tua anima non è in salvo. It sounded beautiful, but the way she spoke them sent a wave of unease washing over everyone present. The guests fell silent, their eyes darting around, scanning for the source of her hollow words. What did she mean? Was this a threat? The laughter dimmed. Victor's expression twisted. The smug arrogance that usually adorned his face faded into confusion, then into something more akin to fear. He stepped back, visibly shaken, his confidence unraveling like delicate silk in a storm. Elena continued her quiet cleaning, placing dirty glasses onto her silver tray with a gentleness that contrasted starkly with the tension spiraling. The guests began to murmur among themselves, their anxious whispers gnawing at the hushed atmosphere. Someone gasped as Victor stumbled back into a tall vase. The crash echoed through the hall like a gunshot, and eyes widened in disbelief. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Time seemed frozen as everyone's breath hitched. Victor's lips moved, almost forming a question, but no sound escaped him. It felt like the world had stopped, all eyes fixated on him and the maid. Waiting for something, a revelation, perhaps? Then without warning, Elena turned her back, glancing one last time over her shoulder, eyes narrowed and mysterious. The electric silence was abruptly shattered as someone screamed. The guests gasped in shock, pointing towards the massive, gilded grandfather clock, its hands spinning uncontrollably. What the hell is happening? Someone croaked, panic rising in their voices. But as all eyes turned, the clock chimed loudly, each sound a heartbeat echoing death, marking the beginning of something far more sinister. Victor fell to his knees, the marble cold beneath him, the air crackling with dread. What did you say? He finally managed, a tremor in his voice, his eyes casting around the room, searching for something unseen. With one last glance, Elena's lips curled into a small, haunting smile, an enigma wrapped in shadows. What lay ahead? With a tightening chest, the guests held their breath, wondering if this was the start of their own unraveling. And as the final toll of the clock reverberated, the question hung heavy in the air: what darkness would unfold next? The room buzzed with panic as guests stumbled away from Victor, some clutching their pearls, others whispering frantic prayers. The chandelier overhead flickered ominously, casting erratic shadows that engulfed faces filled with terror. It was as if the very walls had ears, and they were whispering secrets of despair back and forth. Jenna, a socialite known for her silver tongue, rushed to Victor's side. Victor, what is it? What did she say? Her voice trembled on the edge of hysteria, eyes darting between him and the enigmatic maid who had caused such an uproar. I need to know what she meant. This isn't like her. She never speaks. Victor stammered, his voice laced with fear stemming deeper than the moment. The intensity of the words, so beautiful yet cutting, lingered long after they were uttered. He glanced toward Elena, now leaning against the opulent wall, watching as if the chaos amused her. The clock's persistent ticking grew louder, a hypnotic rhythm that pulsed through the thick air. Then it clicked. The hands on the clock. They had stopped at exactly midnight. a time that often held ghastly implications. Someone needs to find her, Victor shouted, struggling to regain his composure. Anxiety rippled through the crowd, and scattered gasps echoed off the marble. Suddenly, the room felt far too small, every eye scrutinizing every movement. In the dim light, the maids rushed in, their faces pale and confused. "What is going on?" one asked, her voice echoing the frantic energy felt by the crowd. "We heard the scream." Amidst the chaos, Elena remained still, a tranquil island in a raging sea. She seemed to absorb it all, the fear and confusion swirling around her like smoke. Her gaze pierced through the chaos and landed on Victor, who was still on his knees, sweat beading his brow. For a fleeting moment, time stretched, and Victor felt exposed, vulnerable under her steady stare. "Please, just tell me." His voice, once powerful and commanding, cracked. "What curse have you placed upon me?" Elena's smile unfurled slowly, tauntingly. She took a step closer, her presence an intoxicating mix of beauty and dread. "You've made many enemies, Victor," she murmured, "and some of them will stop at nothing to take what you hold dear." Gasps erupted again, the guests now murmuring amongst themselves, fear teetering into hysteria. "Enemies? What do you mean?" Victor demanded, feeling the weight of every judgmental stare. Then, the grandfather clock chimed once more. The sound reverberated, and the very ground beneath felt as if it would give way. As the last echo faded, strange noises filled the room, a series of whispered voices that drifted from the corners, almost inaudible yet unmistakably present. "Victor, listen," Jenna urged, her grip tight on his arm. "We need to get out of here." But it was too late. The ornate doors slammed shut, locking them inside. Panic erupted, screams mingling with the suffocating atmosphere. Victor felt the walls closing in, the air thickening. Every glance around him marked another seed of doubt planted in his mind. Elena stepped back into the shadows, her silhouette merging with the dark. "You'll learn the price of your ambition," she called, her voice a haunting melody. "The reckoning has begun, and time is not your ally." Victor's eyes widened as a chill ran down his spine. The laughter and luxury that once enveloped him felt like a cruel joke. He knew then that this night was just the beginning, a damning descent into a world where wealth couldn't protect him. As the clock chimed again, louder than before, the guests began to realize the truth. Darkness had seeped into their sanctuary. What had started as an extravagant night of revelry was becoming a nightmare woven by the hands of time. Outside the mansion's walls, a storm brewed ominously, lightning dancing across the heavens, foreshadowing the chaos ahead. What horrors awaited them all as they stood trapped inside, shadows growing darker by the second, and as footsteps echoed in the distance, marking their approach, everyone braced for the unthinkable. Would Victor's past finally come to collect what it was owed? The air thickened like fog rolling in off the sea, heavy with tension and dread. Victor's heart raced as he scanned the panicked faces surrounding him. Jenna clutched his arm tighter, her knuckles white against her designer gown. "What are we going to do? We can't stay here." Her voice quivered, almost lost amidst the escalating chaos. "Stay calm," Victor shouted, his desperate tone barely cutting through the fear. "We need to think. We need a plan." Unease washed over the room like a tide. Shadows danced around them, the flickering light from the chandelier creating monstrous shapes that seemed to stretch and claw at the guests. Whispers slithered through the crowd, growing into a cacophony of panic. Someone was crying. Another guest was hyperventilating. The air felt electric, charged with anxiety. Suddenly, the laughter that had filled the air earlier felt miles away. It was swallowed up by the uncertainty clutching them. Victor's eyes met Jenna's frantic gaze. Her fear mirrored his own. He tried to shake off the sensation creeping up his spine, the sense that they were merely pawns in a game far more sinister than they could comprehend. "Victor," a man bellowed from the back of the room, panic creeping into his voice. "If we can get to the windows, we might break them. Get out." Before anyone could respond, a loud, resonating crash echoed through the space, causing everyone to jump. The lights flickered wildly, and the doors rattled as if something on the other side pressed against them. Victor's breathing quickened. "No, we can't just break the windows. We don't know what's out there. We have to find the maid." "Elena," Jenna shouted, as though summoning the ominous figure who had thrown their lives into disarray. She knows something. Elena's name hung heavy in the air, like a question without an answer. The crowd's murmurs quieted, and in the silence, a chilling sound emerged from the corner of the darkened room, a soft, melodic humming. It seemed to draw closer, wrapping around them like a cloak of unease. "Did you hear that?" Victor whispered, his voice barely audible. Everyone nodded, eyes wide with trepidation. The humming grew louder, a haunting lullaby that seemed to call out for them, tempting them into the shadows. The grandfather clock chimed again, marking the seconds that seemed to stretch into eternity. Each chime ignited a flicker of panic within Victor. With every beat, he felt time slipping away from his grasp, taunting him. Cautiously, Victor stepped toward where the sound originated. The guests, holding their breaths, followed, weaving through the chaos. Shadows twisted around them, and every footfall echoed loudly. The tension squeezed their chests like a vice as they neared the source. Victor froze. Elena stood at the far end of the room, illuminated by a flickering beam of light. She was swaying gently, her eyes closed, a serene smile gracing her lips as if the pandemonium around her was nothing but a distant memory. Victor, her voice drifted through the silence, low and sultry. "You came looking for me. How sweet. Stop this," Victor shouted, his courage igniting as he stepped forward. "Why are you doing this? What do you want?" With her eyes still closed, Elena's smile widened. "What I want, dear Victor, is for you to understand the true cost of your ambition. It's not just you that will pay." A jolt of realization coursed through the crowd. "What do you mean?" Jenna asked, dread creeping into her tone. "Time is not on your side, beloved guests." Elena opened her eyes, revealing a glint of malevolence. "Your secrets are about to be unveiled, and with them, the reckoning shall begin." Before Victor could respond, a deafening crash echoed once more, sending shards of glass raining down from the chandelier. All eyes turned to the windows, which were now blanketed with darkness. The storm outside had broken, and the thunder echoed their collective heartbeats. "Run!" Victor yelled, instinct kicking in, knowing they couldn't stay. But as the guests surged toward the doors, the whole room shifted. A dreadful click echoed, and the darkness thickened. "What have you done?" Victor gasped, realizing too late that the real danger was never far away. As shadows coalesced around them, the whispering voices grew louder, swallowing their fears whole. Would they escape the nightmare, or was it already too late? And there, behind the chaos and fear, the glint of a dagger shone ominously in the dim light. Would the truth reveal their salvation, or would ignorance seal their fate? The room was draped in darkness. The only sounds were the frantic gasps of the guests and the ominous creaking of the wood beneath their feet. A suffocating tension filled the air as the guests stumbled over one another in their rush to escape. Confusion twisted into a roar of panic, drowning out rational thought. Victor tightened his grip on Jenna's arm, his heart pounding in rhythm with her quickening breath. "Stay close," he commanded, but it felt hollow, lost in the unfolding chaos. The knife glimmered like a twisted promise, its handle thrusting shadows this way and that, and Victor's gut churned with fear. "Where do we even go?" Jenna screamed, scanning the walls, as if an exit would appear and free them from whatever trap they had unwittingly walked into. A shadow flitted past them, drawing Victor's gaze. It was another guest, eyes wild, darting toward the door they had just come through. "We need to get out. It's getting closer," he shouted, but before he could take another step, the lights flickered again, revealing something monstrous lurking just beyond the glass. A silhouette loomed, grotesque and impossible. "Please," Jenna whimpered, her eyes glistening with tears. "We can't just stand here." Victor's mind raced. They needed a distraction, something to buy them time. He turned his focus back to Elena, who stood eerily still, the embodiment of calm amidst the storm brewing around them. "Elena," he shouted over the chaos. "What do you know? Tell us how to survive." Her smile remained, unfazed by the screaming and glass-strewn floor. "Survival comes at a price, Victor," she cooed, her voice smooth and deep, like silk unspooling. "And only the chosen few will make it through." A low growl echoed from the depths of the building, shaking the very foundations of their fear. A few guests screamed, terror gripping their hearts as they recoiled from the sound. "What did you do?" Victor pressed, desperation clawing at his chest. Elena stepped closer to him, an unsettling light in her eyes. Secrets and lies, Victor. This is all part of the game, and everything has a cost. Are you willing to pay your share? What are you talking about? He clenched his fists, feeling the heat of rage mix with dread. This isn't game. We're in danger. Suddenly, the gasping stopped. A hush enveloped the room, louder than the storm outside. The figure at the window neared, and Victor felt the weight of its gaze upon him, sending chills racing down his spine. Elena, enough of this. Someone shouted, and in a wave of courage mixed with terror, a woman lunged toward the far wall. She scrabbled at the old wood, desperate to find an escape. With one swift motion, she caught a corner, pried it slightly open, and the faintest flicker of light crested through. Elena. Victor could hardly believe he was pleading with her again. Help us, or we'll be trapped. But her laughter rang like crystal bells, cold and dark. Help can be so misleading. Dear Victor, so many choices, so many paths. Which will you choose? As jubilation turned again to dread, the wall shuddered, and a horrifying growl erupted from the back of the room, signaling that whatever was outside could, and would, come for them. Frantic, the guests surged toward the narrow opening. But doubt hung thick, the fleeting light promised hope, yet danger swirled just behind them. In that moment, the dagger flashed again, glinting with the promise of unfolding nightmares. Victor felt his heart pound, both from urgency and uncertainty. It was now or never. Follow me, he yelled, urging Jenna through the crowd. Every instinct screamed at him as they moved deeper into the unknown, each step plagued by fear. But Elena's laughter echoed in their ears, shadowing them like a dark cloud. As they plunged into that flickering light, the strange whispers merged, creating a symphony of dread. Could they truly escape the horror encroaching behind them? Or was this just the beginning of their torment? And then, in a moment of blinding fear, Victor realized sometimes the greatest threat is not what's hunting you, but what you're leaving behind. The light revealed a cramped passageway, barely wide enough for two people to squeeze past each other. Victor jerked Jenna to his side, holding his breath against the fear that threatened to swallow them whole. The air was thick and stale, mingling with the whiff of something damp and rotten. Where does this lead? Jenna's voice trembled, barely audible over the pounding of their hearts. Anywhere but back there, Victor whispered, glancing over his shoulder, praying the silhouette hadn't followed them. They pushed forward, the thrumming sound of their own footsteps drowned by distant howls that echoed like wolves circling prey. They reached a door, splintered and old, adorned with rusted iron knobs. Victor tried the handle. It wouldn't budge. Panic clawed at him. He pushed, shoulder first, muscles straining. Help me, he grunted. Jenna pressed against the door, her small frame cutting into the resonance of the fearful thrumming all around them. Come on. With one last heave, the door creaked open. They tumbled into a vast, dimly lit chamber. The space was cluttered with dusty furniture draped in white sheets, and the air hung heavy with silence, the kind that suffocates hope. Where are we? Jenna murmured, her voice wavering. Victor's eyes darted, scanning the room for anything that could offer help or at least an escape. The walls loomed high, adorned with faded portraits that seemed to watch them, their painted eyes glinting as if they were witnesses to their fate. Suddenly, a low growl resonated from the darkness behind them. The door had swung almost closed, leaving just a narrow gap, but the creature's presence was undeniable, a palpable looming dread. Victor, we need to go. Jenna's face was pale, her eyes wide with fear as she backed away from the door. Look, he pointed to a window, the glass streaked with grime, but intact. It was high, far too high to reach, but the space beneath it revealed something truly troubling. An ancient mantle held an array of odd objects, each more sinister than the last. What are those? Jenna whispered, her gaze locked on a curved dagger, glinting sinister under the flickering light. They look like trophies. They were indeed gruesome and grotesque, a collection of preserved remains that spoke of dark games played long before. Victor's stomach twisted, the air thickening with dread. A shriek pierced the silence, one of terror, of something being devoured. It cut through Victor like ice. He spun back to the door just as it burst open, revealing the hulking mass of the creature, cloaked in shadows. "It's here," Jenna screamed, her voice shrill as she stumbled back. Instinct kicked in. "Run." Victor thrust Jenna toward the far corner. "We need to find another way out." He grabbed and propelled her ahead as he gathered himself, heart hammering a furious beat against his ribs. The walls seemed to close in around them, the very air alive with anguish, spitting at their retreat. Books and artifacts rattled on shelves, but Victor didn't pause to look. Every second felt like a lifetime. They raced deeper into the chamber, oblivious to the memories that lingered, the faces that seemed to plead from the walls. But the growling echoed closer, and he could feel hot breath behind him. Panting, hungry Victor. Jenna cried out, her voice tugging at him amidst the chaos as she pointed toward a staircase spiraling down. No, it slipped from his lips, a desperate thought, for the darkness below promised something far worse than what was after them. But there was no choice. "Go," Victor shouted, and they plunged into the depths, down into the unknown, not knowing if it was salvation or a deeper trap. As they descended the staircase, the air grew colder, more foreboding. The very walls seemed to pulse around them as if alive, demanding a price for their passage. And then, at the bottom, they stumbled into another room, this one alive with shadows and whispering voices, sowing doubt. What had they unleashed? Were they truly safe or merely deeper within Elena's twisted game? The yell was cut short by a deafening crash. The door above splintered, and light flickered just before it was gone, swallowed whole by the darkness. He turned to Jenna, breath catching in his throat. Could they escape this fate, or would they join the cursed souls around them, trapped in an endless nightmare of terror? And in that moment of chilling uncertainty, Victor realized this nightmare was fed by fear. But how could they fight something that thrived on their panic? The weight of their choice hung in the air, as Elena's voice echoed in the back of their minds, a haunting reminder. Sometimes the game demands everything. But then, from somewhere deep within the shadows, a metallic glint caught Victor's eye, a small object that might turn the tides. What was it? And would it truly offer salvation, or just another illusion? Victor squinted into the dimness, the shadowy corners of the room swirling like sinister secrets just out of reach. The glint of the object grew clearer, an ornate key, cold and metallic, nestled beside a tarnished chalice. It pulsed with an almost magnetic allure, beckoning him closer. "Jenna," he whispered urgently. "Over here." She approached hesitantly, eyes darting between the key and the encroaching darkness behind them. "What if it's a trap?" "I don't know," he admitted, panic clawing at his insides. "But if we stay here, we'll definitely become one of those trophies." With a resolve born from sheer fear, Victor snatched up the key, its weight heavy in his palm. He turned to face Jenna. If this was meant to keep something locked away, maybe it can also unlock our way out. But where does it go? Jenna's voice trembled, uncertainty hanging between them like a thick fog. He gestured to the far wall, the shadows obscuring an old wooden door. It looked just as decrepit as the one they had passed earlier. "We have to try?" Together, they hesitated only a moment before racing toward the door. The darkness felt alive, a tightening noose threatening to pull them back into its depths. Victor could hear the growling again, closer now, furious and insatiable, a taunting reminder that they were far from safe. Clenching the key tightly, he reached the door and shoved it. It held, stubbornly resisting their efforts. With Jenna at his side, he set his shoulder against the weathered wood and pushed again, feeling the door tremble under their combined weight. "On three," he gasped. "1, 2, 3. Together, they crashed against the door. It shuddered and creaked open, revealing an even darker passage behind it. "Go," he urged, flinging caution aside and sprinting through the threshold, Jenna close at his heels. The corridor felt endless, a suffocating tomb that wound further downward. Every step echoed ominously through the air, until the voices began again, whispering secrets inaudible yet insistent, urging them towards something. "Victor," Jenna breathed, fear heavy in her tone. "Do you hear them?" "Yes," he murmured, his heart racing. They were not alone. Shadows flickered against the walls, strange shapes writhing just out of sight. Each whisper felt like icy fingers brushing against his skin. There, on the left, was a door half ajar, the air pulsing with stale warmth. A grain of hope sparked in Victor's chest. "Let us check it out." He nudged it open, the rusty hinges squealing a warning. Inside, a dusty room lay in disarray, but it was alive. Candles flickered on a makeshift altar at the center, casting light on dark, ancient symbols etched into the floor. "What is this place?" Jenna whispered, her eyes wide with a mix of awe and horror. "A ritual room," Victor breathed. "It looks like they worshipped something here." As they stepped further in, the whispering grew louder, drowning out the growl that still lurked in the distance. A heavy presence surrounded them, wrapping tighter like a cocoon. Victor felt it, a swirling mass of dread and longing, drawing him toward the altar. "Victor, don't." Jenna pulled at his arm, her grip firm but trembling. "We have to go, please." But something about the altar called to him, an ancient power pulsing beneath his skin. "I can't. It's like an offering." Before Victor could comprehend the implications, he noticed a carving that matched the key he held, a depiction of a great beast bound by chains. His heart raced. This must be how he ended. And what? Jenna shook her head, panic in her voice. The game. A realization struck him. If we can break the chains, we could break their hold. But what if it sets it free? She countered, terror flooding her eyes. Just as he opened his mouth to respond, a tremor shook the floor beneath them. The shadows spiraled, rising furiously as the growl exploded into a roar that rattled their bones. "Everything is collapsing," she screamed. They stumbled backward as the room fused into chaos. The walls closed in, shadows hungrily clawing toward the altar. Victor's hand grasped at the key, indecision choking him. Would taking this risk save them or unleash something far worse? With the world crumbling around them, he had only one choice to make before the darkness engulfed them completely. What if freedom meant unleashing an ancient horror that would have no mercy? The tremor grew stronger, rattling the very foundation of the sanctuary. Victor's heart thudded wildly in his chest, echoing the growl that swelled into a cacophony around them. "We have to do something," Jenna yelled, urgency lacing her voice as she looked to Victor, her eyes full of terror. "Right. The key, it has to mean something." He held it up like a beacon, desperately trying to anchor his thoughts. Where did it fit? He scanned the altar, searching frantically for the right symbol to match. Jenna's breathing was rapid, her face pale against the backdrop of encroaching darkness. "Victor, please." Amid the chaos, a flicker of memory sparked inside him. The beast chained within the carvings, the key. It had to fit the mechanisms binding it. He took a deep breath, steadying himself against the rising tide of dread engulfing the room. "Jenna, watch the shadows. I'll figure this out." He felt a surge of determination, the kind that coursed through him when the rest of the world threatened to push him under. He pressed the key against the closest carving, its contours fitting perfectly into the grooves. A low hum pulsated through the air, vibrating both the key and his very bones. But instead of solace, the noise morphed into a wailing cry, a lament that clawed at his sanity. "Victor!" Jenna shouted, gripping his arm. He looked over his shoulder. The shadows twisted, manifesting into forms he couldn't recognize, tangling around her. "I can't stop now," he shouted back, forcing himself deeper into the moment. The key felt impossibly warm in his hand, urging him to turn it, a false promise, a siren's call. "Do it. Turn it." Jenna's voice was a lifeline, igniting something in him. Could turning the key end this nightmare? He slammed it into the lock, twisting it with all his strength. The shadows shrieked in rage, collapsing in on themselves as if they could feel the chains binding them loosening. The altar trembled violently, and Victor was thrown back against the wall, the impact knocking the breath out of him. "Victor!" Jenna cried, reaching for him, but the shadows had formed an impenetrable barrier, cutting them off. Panic surged through him. "Jenna!" He struggled to rise, every movement drowning in heavy despair. The shadows thickened, swirling and coiling, drowning out the room's flickering lights. And yet, through the thick of it, Victor glimpsed a glimmer of hope. If Jenna was separated, that meant Jenna. He shouted, fighting against the gravity of fear clenching him. "You have to get free. Find another way out." "No, I can't leave you." Her voice broke through the chaos, and the shadows responded with an angry hiss. "Trust me," he urged. He felt a power swell within him, ignited by sheer desperation. "I'll do this. Just find a way." To the moment hung heavy in the air, fraught with tension. The shadows surged again, and Victor fought the overwhelming urge to submit to despair. He turned to the altar once more, the key still shimmering. Just a little more. But as he focused on his task, Jinna's desperate cry echoed through his mind. What if we unleash something worse? A rift opened in the shadows. It felt like every horror he'd ever faced was about to materialize. Victor knew the risks, but what if the forces at play were bigger than them? Something neither of them could control? Without hesitation, he plunged the key deeper, a final push against the unknown, and the ground erupted. The altar split open with a wash of blinding light, a primal roar reverberating through the darkness. Victor was thrown sideways as waves of freedom collided with crushing might. The shadows writhed, transforming, screaming, as a presence began to rise, unbound and angry. Victor! Jinna's voice was frantic as she fought against the power swirling between them. It's not safe. You need to run. He didn't want to run. He needed to understand what they had unleashed. As the figure loomed, a heartbeat of clarity struck him. What if freeing this entity meant confronting the darkness they had both been running from? Jinna, I have to know. He roared, battling against the fear that clawed at him. With the primal roar and light around them intensifying, he faced the ancient horror that had loomed for so long, teetering on the edge of redemption or devastation. What would it reveal? And would it destroy them both in the process? The blinding light swallowed everything. Victor shielded his eyes, heart racing, as the roar morphed into a symphony of chaos. The air crackled with energy, thick with the scent of fear and something ancient and powerful. Shadows spiraled wildly, struggling against the now trembling walls. Jinna fought against the dark tendrils that stretched toward her, their cold touch like ice wrapping around her limbs. Panic washed over her. Victor! She screamed, but her voice barely penetrated the cacophony of screams resonating from the altar. With a surge of warmth flooding through him, Victor forced himself to regain his composure. He could feel it pulsing under the surface, that connection to something beyond understanding. As the shadows danced, a figure began to take shape, towering, regal, yet terrifying that it was like staring into a stormy abyss. Its eyes glinting with a mix of fury and wisdom, a creature that had been wronged, but now stood free, bared before them. Its voice crackled through the air like lightning. You dare summon me? It demanded. The entity's very presence seemed to weigh on him, pushing him back, but Victor held his ground. We didn't know, he shouted, sounding more defiant than he felt. We wanted to help. Help? The figure leaned closer, darkness swirling around in a cascade of shadows and light. You seek understanding, yet you do not comprehend the depths of your actions. Jinna squirmed, her voice now desperate, filled with fear. You don't have to hurt us. We just wanted to know the truth about the shadows. She was trembling, but standing fiercely beside Victor, their fear bonding them tighter in that moment. The being seemed to consider this, its gaze piercing through them. Truth? You are not ready for the truth. It holds both the key to your salvation and your destruction. A wave of anguish washed over Victor, and the sensation of darkness encroaching on them tightened around his throat. What do you mean? He pressed, trying to push through the roiling sensation of dread. Shadows lurked at the corners of his vision, whispering mistrust, their coldness creeping under his skin. There are sacrifices to be made, the entity warned. This balance you desire is built on the bones of promises broken and lives lost. Would you pay such a price? Fear rippled through him at the idea. The shadows twisted as if resonating with the entity's words, and he saw Jinna's terrified expression mirrored back at him in a flickering moment of horror. I'll do anything, Victor yelled, voice filled with raw determination, drowning out the entity's echoing laughter. We need to know. We can face it together. Together, the entity repeated, its tone shifting. But together, you must make a choice. The key you wield can not only be used to free, it can bind as well. Are you willing to become the chain, or will you stand as the flame? Before he could consider the weight of those words, a violent rush of air swept through the chamber. Shadows slammed into him, pushing against every part of his being. They clawed for his mind, for his heart, seeking to unravel his resolve. Jinna fell to her knees, hands gripping her head as she gasped for breath. Victor, it's too much, she squirmed, but he could see her fading beneath the weight of darkness. Jinna, He shouted, panic shooting through him. He felt a rush of power surge at his fingertips, begging him to wield it. He could burn away the shadows, but it could cost Jenna everything. Could he hold on? Was he ready to grasp that power and take on whatever came next, or would that choice shatter them both? The figure loomed just beyond the light, waiting, whispering promises and threats. Victor steeled himself. I choose. His voice trembled, but he pressed on, facing the all-consuming darkness that had followed him since they entered the sanctuary. But the echo of his choice hung in the air, suspended between hope and despair. What will be unleashed upon this world? He wondered, the reality of his decision crushing down like a stone. The shadows inched closer, hungry for release, and before he could finish the sentence, a blinding flash erupted again, reversing their surroundings in a whirlwind of despair and discovery. Would their reckoning come at a cost they couldn't afford? The blinding light condensed, coalescing into a single point before bursting outward, transforming the chaotic chamber into a serene landscape. Victor blinked, disoriented. He was no longer surrounded by ancient stone and swirling shadows, but stood in a soft meadow under an expansive sky. Sunlight dripped like honey, warming his skin, but an unsettling knot tensed in his stomach. Victor? Jenna's voice trembled beside him. In an instant, his heart sank. She seemed fragile in this brightness, her eyes wide with confusion, still feeling the remnants of darkness's grip. What just happened? I'm not sure. Victor's pulse quickened. What had he chosen? The entity's words swirled in his mind, heavy with implications. He glanced around, searching for remnants of the darkness that still felt so palpable beneath the calm surface. Before he could voice his fears, the meadow shimmered and wavered like a mirage. It felt too perfect, too unreal. In the distance, figures began to materialize, cloaked figures, their faces obscured, drifting closer with eerie grace. Their presence shattered the illusion of peace in an instant. What are those? Jenna gasped, backing closer to Victor, her body tense with dread. They might be. Victor hesitated, a sinking feeling clawing at his chest as the memory of the shadows flooded back. I think they're remnants of the entity's power. Or worse, its servants. The figures drew near, movements deliberate and slow, like shadows raised to the light. A flicker in the air seemed to throb with energy as they stopped just before Victor and Jenna. The leader stepped forward, hood lowering to reveal sunken eyes that glimmered with an unfathomable darkness. You've summoned us, and thus, you owe a debt, said the figure, voice smooth like oil, yet filled with the rasp of gravel. Your choice has been made, and now consequences must follow. Victor's breath caught in his throat as the weight of that statement sank like lead in his belly. What do you want from us? He croaked, fighting to keep his composure. The truth you seek can only be founded upon sacrifice. You must offer what you hold most dear, a choice that will bind you further into the shadows, or allow you to sever your connection completely, but with consequences unforeseen. The figure grinned, revealing teeth like sharp daggers. Jenna's hand gripped Victor's. He could feel her trembling. We can't trust them. They're here to manipulate us. Maybe. Victor hesitated. This was everything they'd been searching for, yet it felt wrong to engage further. But what if it's the only way to save us from the darkness? Only if you choose to cast us into the light, the leader hissed. But remember, not all that shines holds truth. Suddenly, images flooded Victor's mind. A past filled with choices, mistakes, sorrow, and the shadows of people who paid the price for his ignorance. The desperation curled in his chest, warning him that every path they could take now would resonate with ripples of destruction. Victor, Jenna's voice broke through his thoughts, a whisper filled with fear. What if the price is too high? What if it takes us both? I don't want to lose you. The choice loomed larger now, the air around them thickening with electric tension. Beneath the glowing sun, shadows twisted and danced, almost taunting him. Was he strong enough to face the truth, despite the cost? His heart pounded, and the weight of his decision pressed down on him. The cloaked figures stared, waiting with bated breath. But just as he prepared to speak, a thunderous roar echoed in the distance, a powerful sound that shattered the illusion of calm. The ground trembled beneath their feet, the meadow shifting as if it were alive. And Victor knew something was coming that would change everything. What lay beneath this facade of serenity? ready to unleash chaos once more. The peaceful meadow shattered like glass as the roar echoed again, ramping up the sense of dread that hung heavy in the air. Victor felt a cold grip around his heart, the weight of looming consequences crashing over him. The cloaked figures shifted restlessly, their dark eyes igniting with an insatiable hunger. The choice must be made. Their leader hissed, the voice reverberating through the tension thickening around them. Victor, we need to think, Jenna pleaded, her voice trembling as she clung tightly to his arm. He could feel her heart racing against his, their fear now wrapped in one desperate spirit. They had fought so hard to survive, only to stand at the edge of a deeper abyss. What if he stammered, trying to grasp the right words as he scanned their surroundings? What if we can turn this around? Use the knowledge we've gained to confront whatever lies ahead. What if this illusion of peace is just the beginning? The leader narrowed its sunken eyes, a sinister smile stretching across its face. You misunderstand, dear child. The truth you seek comes at a price, your deepest fear, your most treasured bond. Will you sacrifice that which gives you strength to survive the darkness? The shadows around them seemed to pulse, twisting and curling like snakes, as Victor realized the leader's proposition sacrifice what they held most dear. Would it be their unity, their bond, the only thing that ever kept them steady in a storm? Jenna's grip tightened, fear flickering across her features. Victor, don't. We don't know what they'll do. Don't you see? Victor's heart raced with the realization. This is part of the game they've laid out. They want to play with our fears, our connections. If we stand against it, together, it might be enough. A glimmer of hope ignited in her eyes, but the cloaked figures surged forward as though sensing their defiance. You tread a dangerous path, the leader warned, voice low and dissonant. You cannot escape your fate. A rumble of energy vibrated around them, the meadow darkening as shadows crept closer. Victor could feel the thunderous sound of the roar drawing nearer, the air bristling with tension as he took a deep breath. No, he suddenly yelled, the conviction bursting from his lips. We will not cower in fear. If shadows haunt us, then let us confront them. In that moment of raw courage, Victor lifted the key high above his head. It glowed a fierce light that cut through the shadows like a flame in darkness. Jenna's eyes widened as the cracking air buzzed with ancient energy. What are you doing? She gasped, bewildered yet intrigued. Fighting back, Victor shouted, the wild energy coursing through him. We can't let them bind us with our own darkness. We face the truth together, and we make our own choice. The leader hissed, the cloaked figures recoiling as the light spilled outward. You think you can defy destiny? You invite destruction upon yourselves. But Victor found strength in Jenna's unwavering gaze. We defy nothing. We stand for everything. If we lose together. In his heart, he felt that their bond was the weapon against whatever darkness threatened to consume them. Flames flickered around them as he plunged the key deep into the earth, the ground thrumming beneath their feet. Reveal what is hidden, he shouted. We demand the truth. As the energy pulsed, shadows coiled tighter, battling against the freeing warmth. Suddenly, a brilliant flash erupted, scattering the cloaked figures as the ground split open, revealing an endless tunnel filled with swirling lights and shadows. The furious roar grew nearer but quieter, falling away to whispers, echoes of their fears, regrets, and all they held dear. Jenna stepped forward, her voice steady even as her hands trembled. Together, she whispered. Always, always, Victor echoed, joining her side. They stepped into the tunnel, the darkness and light swirling around them like a dance. They felt the shadows retreating, no longer seeking to terrorize but instead revealing the truth buried beneath layers of fear and doubt. As they moved deeper, visceral. Memories flashed in front of them. Past choices and moments of resilience played out like a film, reminding them of how strength lay within love and trust. The whispers transformed into encouragement, a chorus singing back up as they began to unravel the tether that the darkness had held over them. Victor could feel their connection grow stronger, their resilience fortifying against the looming shadows. They pushed through, hand in hand, fear bouncing off the walls, transformed into purpose. Finally, they emerged in an open field filled with light, radiant despite the remnants of darkness lingering just beyond the edges. The cloaked figures hovered back, their presence diminished, forced to retreat from the strength of their united spirits. Victor exhaled, heart racing, but finally calm. We did it, Jenna. We faced it together. Jenna smiled through tears of relief as the last creeping shadows faded away. We chose each other. Our bond is unbreakable. They can never own us. Victor felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. And now, it's time to share our story, warn others of the dance between light and dark. We can rise above this, together. As he stood hand in hand with Jenna, they knew the battle had changed something fundamental within them. They had made a choice, not just to face the darkness, but to embrace the power of their bond against it. Victor gazed at the horizon where the sun broke through, casting vibrant colors splashed across the sky. Despite the battle scars left behind, a sense of purpose filled him, the promise of a new beginning shining bright. And together, they took a step into their next chapter. You need to subscribe now to our channel so you don't miss any of the exclusive stories coming up. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories about this ending. It matters. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support is everything. Let us keep this amazing journey going together. Join the family now.